Okay, so welcome to What the F Are Macros Masterclass. I don't know how the weather is for you guys, but it was sunny and chilly here in Dallas. And by chilly, I mean like the 50s. So you guys are some of my favorite people, and this is going to be fun. The more engaged that you are, the more fun that this is going to be for me, and the more that you will get out of it. So we already checked to make sure that the chat box is working, so thank you for that. Let's go ahead and get started. So, some of you have been watching quietly during our consistency challenges and our pretty consistent membership. I know that you've seen Kylie track every single day. I track every single day, and I'm actually almost at 300 days consistently. And maybe you've thought to yourself, like, that could never be me. And I need you to hear this. Yes, it can, but not because you suddenly become more disciplined. Macros will help you become more aware. And tonight is not about becoming some macro robot, right? It's about becoming what feels good for you. So it's not perfect, it's not restriction, it's really about understanding. So before we dive into the chat, I'm curious on a scale of 1 to 10 how confused you feel about macros right now. So 1 would be super confident, tracking your macros every day and consistently, and 10 would be like, what the F are macros? My goal is that by the end of tonight, the number is going to reflect the increased confidence. And that's
I'm about a 5 or a 6. I did track macros for a little bit,
mm-hmm.
so I know, you know, what that was, what that looked like. Like I know what the proteins look like and the carbs and the calories and, what it took to sustain that. So I have a clue.
I love that you have experience tracking macros. I know that Megan has been curious before and has tracked a couple things here and there. I know that Bobby also has some experience tracking macros. So this is such a great foundation. But before we get into learning more about macros today, there is one rule and one rule only. It is no shame. You are not giving yourself permission to criticize yourself. You don't get to weaponize the data that you collect through macros and use it against yourself. And you don't get to turn these numbers into some morale code, okay? Like macros are not a report card. They are information. And information creates power. So we treat ourselves pretty here, right? I know you guys have heard me say that a lot of times over and over. I want you to type pretty in the chat if you're committed to treating yourself pretty today and as you track your macros. Again, the rule is no shame. We want just honesty. So, most of you in the room already know that I've had a seriously messed up relationship with food. And if I'm being honest, on some level, you might too. Maybe you relate to the binge eating or the overeating. Maybe it was restricting your food all week and starting over every Monday. Maybe it's guessing and indulging, punishing yourself for eating, fasting and not eating breakfast in the morning, swearing that this time would be different. Maybe it's that you're saying you don't eat that much, but you're still not looking at the data consistently. So maybe you've tried the cabbage soup diet, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Octavia, low carb, no carb, clean eating. We've tried everything except understanding. So diet culture did not just hand us food rules, it handed us shame, and we have subscribed to diet culture for years. I spent decades wanting to shrink my body. The cabbage soup diet I did every holiday season. That is so relatable, Bobby. Because seriously, like I spent decades wanting to shrink my body, wanting to hide my cellulite, wanting to disappear in the photos. So I could not tell you how many times I sat on my kitchen floor crying and asking myself, like, what is wrong with me? Every time I had a binge eating episode. And it's weird because it's like, why is it that I can take such great care of patients? I can build a successful career. I can show up for everyone else. but I can't seem to figure out food. The mental gymnastics, right? The bargaining with yourself, the guilt, and the promises to be better tomorrow. So the chaos in my brain was actually louder than the food itself. And this is why I'm so passionate about macros, because macros are data. And data, it's not emotional. Data is not going to shame you. Data is not going to call you lazy. Data is going to tell you exactly what is happening. And when I finally understood that my macros were just numbers, just information, just feedback, something shifted. Food was not about morality. It was not about being good or being bad. It's not about shrinking myself into worthiness. It's about understanding my energy, my intake, the fuel that I give my body, my output, and looking at trends and patterns. It became science. And when you replace the chaos with clarity, you stop fighting with yourself. And that is the power of macros. Not obsession, not perfection, but clarity. And clarity is what ends the chaos. So, as a nurse, we use something called ADPI, where we assess, diagnose, plan, implement, and evaluate. Tonight and moving forward, tracking your macros is assessing. Lucky for you, you don't have to be a nurse to use this framework. We are going to assess our current intake. We're going to plan, implement, and evaluate moving forward. Are you guys with me?
We're with you.
Yes.
Woo! All right, so you might be asking yourself, like, what should my macros be? And you cannot know what your macros should be until you know where they are right now. So, not just on your good days, not on your influencer days, but like in real life. I want you to track for 2 to 4 weeks and change nothing about your habits. Go to fast food, meal prep at home, whatever it is that you are currently doing. I want you to change nothing and observe your current habits. From there, we can plan. And this is how we make progress. So, part of healing your relationship with food is the ability to be honest with yourself. You might not want to log the fun-sized Twix that you ate in your manager's office thinking it's just not that big of a deal, right? I am going to encourage you to be so radically honest with yourself about your intake because I really believe that the most pure form of food freedom is the ability to hold yourself accountable by being honest and tracking your food and your macros. Doing it without shame, too. I need to add that into there. Being honest with yourself, holding yourself accountable, tracking without shame. And like we mentioned, we treat ourselves pretty. So we're not going to shame ourselves as we assess the data that macros will reveal. So if you ate an entire box of chocolates, I want you to track the entire box of chocolates. If you skip breakfast and you overeat that night, I want you to track it. If your coffee has cream and syrup and sugar, track it because we cannot improve what we refuse to assess. So macros, it's something that felt personal and emotional, and it's now turned into something that is practical. They took the shame and replaced it with science. So you guys know I hired a coach last year, and the very first thing she had me do was track, not diet, not restrict, not overhaul my meals. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of annoyed. I hired her for weight loss, and she just wants me to track my food. But this is important because I had tracked before. You guys have had some experience with tracking, and maybe what I'm about to say is very familiar with like with your story. So let me know in the chat if that is true for you. So I'm not new to MyFitnessPal, but I was only using it to track when I was performing. And what I mean by that is I only tracked when I was being good. When I decided that I was going to track, all of a sudden I was making better options, the healthier choices, the grilled chicken instead of the burger, the egg whites instead of whole eggs. And I was almost performing my health. Yes, Bobby gets it. Exactly. That I wanted to perform. I wanted to show that I was being quote unquote good. And the second that I stopped making those better choices, those perfect choices, I stopped tracking altogether. And if this sounds like you, I want you to be honest with yourself because that was me for sure. And what I learned in this past year is that tracking is not for performance. It's really about becoming aware of what your intake is today because that awareness changes everything. When my coach put me into an awareness phase and I had to look at my actual intake, ladies, like, do you know what I found out? I was eating between 24 and 2,600 calories a day. And I had been calling myself an intuitive eater, and I convinced myself that I just didn't eat that much. But data does not lie. And instead of spiraling, I chose to get empowered because now I understand. No wonder the weight had slowly crept back on. I was overeating. My metabolism, it wasn't ruined though. I was, however, unaware of how I was sabotaging my metabolism as it was adapting to lower and lower intakes. So after tracking for awareness, we went into maintenance around 2,000 calories. And when I tell you guys I was getting really annoyed with my coach, I hired her to help me lose weight. And all we have done is assess and maintain. I was getting really impatient. Does anybody else get impatient when they're on a weight loss journey? No.
Oh, of course.
You get it. I think everyone does in this room because like after a couple of weeks of hitting my targets at 2,000 calories, then my coach put me in my first intentional deficit. This is important to note. Yes, you get it. As a recovered binge eater, I was like so ready to lose the weight and to keep it off. I felt like I have done a lot of work to heal my relationship with food, but I was nervous because you hear when you're healing your relationship with food, they say you should never track again. You should never diet. You should never be in a deficit because then you're risking the relationship that you have with food and you risk going back into that binge restrict cycle. And I will tell you this with honesty, my calorie deficits got a little uncomfortable. A deficit, as you guys know, it means that you're eating less than you are burning. So you're going to feel hungry. That's natural, right? That's your body saying, hey, I need more food. But that scared the shit out of me because I knew that used to be me. That is exactly the feeling that would cause me to binge eat. So, in a calorie deficit, you're going to feel that food noise, but that's just biology. And understanding that you're not a failure, your brain is simply trying to protect you. Like, thank you, brain. So, we're going to hear a little bit about science as we understand macros, and that takes the emotion out of macros. So, macros gave me structure inside of that discomfort, knowing that they gave me numbers and targets and clarity, understanding like, yes, I'm in a deficit, so I'm going to be hungry and being able to no longer guess. I was not spiraling anymore. I was simply gathering data. Now, you guys have been with me during this time that I have been with my coach, and over the last 4 months, not last 4 months, excuse me, 4 months last year, I lost 22 pounds. And my macros, they were hardly perfect, but they were intentional, and I was pretty consistent with getting close to my targets. So then came something that I had never done before. Has anyone had experience with a reverse diet?
No.
Me either. This was the first time that I had done a reverse diet, and what happened really shocked me. My coach, over a period of time, after I lost 22 pounds, my coach slowly, week over week, started to increase my calories, and she increased it by 500 calories per day and over 200 grams of carbs per day. So I was averaging about 2,000 calories in this reverse diet. And guess what? I only gained 2 pounds back. That's it. I lost 22, went into a reverse diet. I ate 500 calories more a day and I gained 2 pounds back. I don't know about you, but that's pretty freaking incredible. And that is on science. This is when like my brain literally exploded because that is when I understood that your metabolism is adaptive. It's going to respond. It's dynamic. And when you understand macros, when you understand energy balance and you understand how your body responds, weight loss stops feeling mysterious. This starts to make sense. So macros are not about obsession. They are information. And there's an art of tracking, of being honest with yourself, the skill of collecting data, the discipline of looking at trends instead of your emotions. So the power of making intentional adjustments that align with your goals is now yours. You have the power to make better choices for yourself so that you can hit your goals and enjoy food along the way. So treating yourself pretty, you and I both know that does not mean perfection. It means being honest and being willing to looking at your numbers without any shame. It means saying, let me see what is actually happening so that I can improve it. And tonight, that's what I'm giving you awareness. Because once you understand your numbers, once you understand the science, you're no longer at war with food. You are informed. And if you are an informed woman, we make powerful choices. I want you to put powerful in the chat because we have the opportunity to make powerful choices. So most women, they think that they struggle with food because they lack discipline. But let me tell you what I see as a nurse and as a coach. Most women were never taught how food actually works. Yes, powerful, powerful. Yes, Megan. Yes, Bobby. I love to see it. Like, but let's be so for real. I have my bachelor's of science for years now, science and nursing, of course, but nonetheless, a bachelor's of science, struggled with weight loss for decades. And I am just now, like just now in my 35th year of life, understanding how food actually works, like thanks to macros. Diet culture and everyone and their mom who has an opinion about weight loss, which they do, has taught us that carbs are bad, fats make you fat, eat less, move more, shrink more, go extreme, lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And all this did was teach us to fear food instead of understanding how to fuel our bodies. Food was emotional. It was a coping mechanism. It was punishment. It was reward. It was celebration. It was complicated. Until I realized something that changed everything. It's actually science. So let's get into what the F are macros? Like, what are they actually? And macros are short for macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs. So every single food that you eat contains some combination of these three. I have a question for you, and I want you to put this in the chat. What do you think peanut butter is primarily? Is peanut butter a protein, carb, or fat? And I want to know your answer in the chat, and we're going to come right back to this. Ooh, you guys are so good. Yes. But here's the math. Here's something that I want to show you because this is where it kind of maybe gets a little complicated for people. I know it did for me. So we talked about macros as short for macronutrients, but the value of each of these, 1 gram of protein is going to equal 4 calories. 1 gram of carb is going to equal 4 calories. Fats, you can see here on the screen that fats, 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories per gram. Now, this is why they get such a bad reputation. 9 calories per gram. That doesn't mean that fat is bad, though. It just means that fat is calorie dense. I want to ask you this also. Has anyone ever told you that avocados are bad because they're high in fat? What they really mean to say is that avocados are expensive in your fat budget for the day. Yes, they are. Macros are structure, micronutrients are quality, and avocados, they are rich in fiber, potassium, and micronutrients. So it's not about good fats versus bad fats. It's awareness. Is it worth the budget for you? And that's where you get to make an empowered choice. So, some examples of fats are going to be olive oils, nuts, pecans, peanut butter, feeds, cheese, like all kinds. I said feeds, I meant seeds. Oh my gosh. I'm like so excited to do this and also so nervous, but like I just love being here and being with you ladies today. So, moving on, something that we need to clear up and something that confuses people is calories versus macros. So, if you think of your calories like your daily budget, calories represent the total amount of energy that you have available to spend. And macros, your proteins, fats, and carbs, are how you spend that budget. So just like money, your budget is how you can spend. Where you spend it matters, right? Food works the same way. Calories will tell us how much energy we are eating. Macros will tell us where that energy comes from. Again, proteins, fats, and carbs. So you don't need to obsess over every single dollar in your bank account to be intentional with your spending. And the same is true here. So I want you to type yes in the chat if that budget analogy just made macros a little bit easier to understand. So again, we're going to think of calories as your total daily budget. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Bobby. Yes, Megan. I love it. So macros are how you're going to allocate that budget, as we mentioned, proteins, fats, and carbs. And you get a certain number of macro dollars each day, and you get to choose how you spend them. So you might be wondering, like, what are your macros? What should your macros be? And just like my coach did with me, I encourage you to track for 2 to 4 weeks. Yes, Gina, I love it. I encourage you to track for 2 to 4 weeks without changing anything. Become aware of maybe some overeating, undereating protein, too much fast food. And then you can plan for better macros from your baseline assessments. So let's break down the roles of each macronutrient clearly. Protein is so important, especially for us women over 35, because we lose muscle mass every single year. And muscle and protein is going to support your muscle retention. It's going to help keep you fuller for longer so you feel not as hungry. It's going to be essential in your fat loss because the more muscle you have preserved, the more fat you are burning. The one that also gets such a bad rap is carbs. What did carbs ever do to anybody? I don't get it. We love carbs. Carbs are a primary energy source for about 90% of the population. It's going to fuel our brain function. So if you have a 2 p.m. crash every single day, you're probably not getting enough fuel. Carbs also are going to make you feel so much stronger in your workouts. It prevents hormonal stress when you're chronically in a deficit. Carbs are so important to our body, and so are fats. Fats are going to support your hormone production, hair, skin, nails. Depends on fats. Nutrient absorption happens better when we eat our fats. It's going to make you feel more satisfied in your meals, and it's going to protect your brain health. Your body requires all three, and balance is powerful. Okay, so you guys have already outed the right answer. Peanut butter is not a high protein food. In fact, it is a high fat food. Yes, it is a high fat food. It contains protein, but it is primarily a fat source. So I actually had peanut butter right here on the label per 2 tablespoon, which is 33 grams. It is 16 grams of fat. Can you guys probably not see that very good, huh? No. Okay, so it says 16 grams of fat, 8 grams of carbs, and 7 grams of protein. So, yes, this peanut butter is definitely a high fat food. But this awareness, becoming aware of high fat, low fat, what swaps you're able to make can really help you reach and achieve your weight loss goals. Now, it's really important to understand that not all grams are created equal. So just because something has 10 grams of protein, I hate to break it to you, it doesn't mean that it's a high quality protein. So you're wondering why I have Khloe Kardashian up on the screen here as part of our presentation, but it's because she came out with this protein popcorn at Starbucks, and I want you ladies to be so for real. Like we love Khloe Kardashian, at least I do for sure. But what quality protein do you think is in this popcorn? Right? Like it's not going to be a quality popcorn. Where you source your macronutrients, it's important. Whole foods most of the time is essential for your gut health, for your longevity, and most importantly for preventing heart disease and colon cancer. And I mean, it's good for weight loss too. Like that's the selling point. It's good for weight loss too, but really it's all about longevity and health. And I like to think that if it had a life, it's probably good for you. So, eggs, chicken, beef, salmon, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, lentils, tofu are great examples of whole foods. And I would encourage you to have a whole foods most of the time diet. Macros are structure, quality is integrity. You and I, we are building a healthy internal ecosystem within our body. And I know this is the nurse speaking in me, but it is so important, ladies. We have to treat ourselves pretty. So, what's the difference? And do we need a scale? So, let's talk about something that feels way more dramatic than it actually is. Measuring food and weighing food are not the same thing. Measuring is going to use like a measuring cup or tablespoons. Okay, so maybe you're using something like this to measure your peanut butter. But the issue here though is that this measures volume. And when you measure volume, that can vary depending on how tight something is packed, the shape of the food, the moisture content, and how much you're scooping, right? So one cup of rice can weigh so much different depending on how it's scooped. Same is true for 1 tablespoon of peanut butter because we can take a scoop of peanut butter, right? And we can measure it pretty flat. And then we can also do the same tablespoon and have an emotional support portion. Okay. These differences add up, especially since we know that peanut butter is mostly fats, right? So, weighing and using a food scale is going to make this so accurate and take the guesswork out of it. Weighing is going to measure the mass, and you usually do that in grams. And it's not based on packaging and brand shape and your scooping style or your mood. Grams are very consistent, and consistency is what's going to make your tracking accurate. So, why weighing is more accurate? Like, let's use the peanut butter as an example. The label might say 2 tablespoons equals 32 grams. Well, as we notice, if you scoop 2 tablespoons with a spoon, it might actually be 38 grams, 42 grams, or 45 grams. And the difference, as we talked about, is mostly fat calories. Over time, that adds up. It knocks you out of your calorie deficit. And this is why weighing is the most accurate form of tracking macros. I highly recommend. Does anybody have like any experience using a food scale? Type it into the chat and let me know below. Here's my honest answer. Like, do you have to have a food scale? If you care about being the most precise, Bobby's used one before. If you care about being the most precise, Megan says hers is dusty. I get it. You're going to want to use the cleanest data, and the scale is going to be your gold standard. If you're consistent and you use measuring cups the same way every time, this is okay too. The key is not perfection, it's consistency. So if you always measure your rice the same way and you always scoop your peanut butter the same way and you always use the same bowl to measure, you can still collect very helpful data. Precision is going to improve the speed of your results, though, and consistency improves awareness. So, the way that I coach it, healing your relationship with food, if you're brand new and overwhelmed easily, I would start simple with measuring cups. If you're feeling stuck and you're frustrated because nothing's working, I will bet the scale will give you a lot of clarity and very quickly. But here's an important mindset shift. The scale is not about restriction. It's about removing the guesswork because guessing creates anxiety and data that creates confidence. So I want you to type, actually, you've already done this, and I'm so happy to hear that some of you guys have a food scale. So whatever way that you want to do it is what will work. No matter what your plan is, a plan that you're willing to sustain is the best plan possible. How are you guys doing? Any questions so far? Any thoughts? Any aha moments?
Well, I have a thought.
Yeah.
When you say carbs, like what do you consider good carbs?
Hmm. That's a really great question. That's not something that I put in to today's masterclass, but good carbs versus bad carbs. Let's think about it, right? Just the same as we talked about with protein. That protein popcorn that Khloe Kardashian has at Starbucks is not going to be a good quality protein. When we think of carbs, you can go simple versus complex. Now, some people say good carbs versus bad carbs. And I would think of it in the same way that I think about that protein popcorn. What quality am I getting? So if I'm going to eat a potato, a baked potato, or if I'm going to drink a Dr. Pepper, let's say, for example, both of them have 56 grams of carbs. Which one is a better option for you? And that's where it comes to like whole foods and whole food options. Did
Okay,
that, did that answer your question?
that's helpful.
Okay. Yes, because I mean, I don't think that I personally label foods as good or bad, but there are different things to consider. So if I'm going to the gym and I need a very simple carb so that I can get a quick energy, I'm probably going to go with something like rice cakes. It's easy, it's travel, like I can travel with it, and it's quick energy. But if I need something that's going to sustain me throughout the day, I'll probably eat potatoes or rice with my lunch. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, just a couple tips and tricks. You're going to want to weigh your food after you have cooked it. And if you're going to measure your food on the food scale, the best way to do that is to measure in grams. So, yeah, we talked about eyeballing this. This is technically 1 tablespoon if I packed it down, but this is where awareness becomes reality. We have removed the shame and we are just clarity. Oop, let's see. Some women tell me, in fact, I've heard this so often, I don't eat that much. I could never eat 2,000 calories a day. That is so much food, Sammy. But these same women are shocked when they realize that their Starbucks drink is almost 500 calories, and that's before the cake pop. Like, I know in our group, we've actually been sharing some of the things that are surprising us as far as the intake. Macros are going to expose those blind spots. When you are tracking consistently, they are going to fill in those knowledge gaps. And you're going to become so good at being able to balance a plate and know proteins, fats, and carbs. And you're going to make some swaps that feel good for you. So when I realized how many grams of fats is actually in sour cream and how much that was costing me with my favorite taco bowl that I like to make, Greek yogurt was such an easy swap. It's still just as sour, just as tangy, but it's high in protein and has zero fat. Like none. Still delicious, still satisfying, but you learn what the value is almost in dollars, right? But in calories and how much you get to spend for the day. And that's budget reallocation. And that's macros in action. So, of course, cooking at home is ideal. You can weigh the food, you can control the ingredients, but life includes restaurants. And thank God for that because I love eating out. I love going out and celebrating with my girlfriends or family, and I love being served, wined, and dined. I love when they take the crumbs too. Yeah, I love it all. all food, all of it, okay? And so we adapt, and the goal is to live a balanced lifestyle. We don't want food to consume our every thought. We want to live a balanced life as a pretty woman that we are. So, what I do when I go to the restaurant, I kid you not, I take a picture of my food and I upload it into ChatGPT. I list out the ingredients and I ask ChatGPT to estimate the macros. And some of the examples from that prompt is estimate macros for grilled chicken tacos with rice, beans, and guacamole from my favorite spot, Chipotle. I personally ask it to overestimate when I'm in a deficit, and that makes sense, right? What you can control when you eat out is asking for dressing on the side, being aware of your portion. And the more that you track macros, the more that you're able to actually eyeball 100 grams of chicken or 4 ounces of chicken. And you can swap out ingredients. Consistency is going to beat perfection every single time. So I want to use Olive Garden chicken Alfredos as an example because I love chicken Alfredo, whether it's from Olive Garden, homemade, from BJ's Brew House. Like, I love chicken Alfredo. And if you're looking here, it's showing at 1,620 calories for one portion. That is wild. Of course, you don't eat the whole portion. A lot of people will eat half and send the other home. But okay, we're still talking about what is that, 800 calories in one sitting? 100 grams of fat, 96 grams of carbs, and 84 grams of protein. Protein's not bad. The rest of it's not affordable. So, this is like this is assuming also that this is the exact portion size. And let's be real, a lot of times they're likely to be larger than quoted, right? Does that mean you can't have Olive Garden's chicken Alfredo? No, of course you can. But you do understand that it's going to be high in fats. And maybe you can ask for double chicken to increase the protein. Or you can recreate a lighter version for yourself. And macros allow you to modify foods without depriving yourself of them. If you love food like I do, it cannot just be me. Like, who loves food? Like, am I alone on this or do we love food? Maybe it's just me. Oh no, here we go.
Me.
Me, Megan, yes. Like, I seriously love food. I do not want to give up my favorite foods. But that's the best part about macros is I don't have to give up my favorite foods. I'm willing to eat simple meals most of the days, like beef and rice for lunch, no problem. Chicken and potatoes, pretty predictable, right? But I still want to enjoy my Olive Garden if I go out. And I can budget for that. And I can plan ahead for that. So, if you guys will, and going out to eat, yes, I love going out to eat. It's like, it's an experience. I go out maybe 1 to 2 times a week and enjoy food outside of the house. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel balanced. I'm able to eat my basics on repeat without feeling burnt out. We're going to track if we were to make chicken Alfredo at home. Okay, so we have the do a chicken breast. Let's say we're gonna do, you can do 3 ounces. I really like to count everything in grams. So I'm gonna say 100 grams of chicken. I'm gonna add that to my diary. I'm going to add Alfredo, just a very classic off the shelf Alfredo. Bertoloni is definitely a great. We can do half a cup. Again, I like to do it in grams, but for the sake of one serving, I will leave it to that. So we're going to add to diary. And let's also add some broccoli. Probably not a full cup, but we will say half. Broccoli is very low calorie, so do I care to be as accurate? No, because it has a lot of fiber also. Broccoli and then fettuccine. Oh God, I spelled that wrong. Okay, let's see. One serving. Are you guys with me? Can you guys see this okay? I'm also gonna say 100 grams. Okay. Do you guys see here chicken breast, Alfredo, broccoli, and the fettuccine pasta itself? It tells you our total calories of 783. Oh no, that's sodium, sorry. The total calories 623, 16 grams. Oh, that's not right. 16 grams of carbs. So obviously, when you're tracking, this is going to be something. That's not the right fettuccine. I'm gonna have to write. I'm gonna find just pasta. And this is also something good to know as you're tracking your food on a consistent basis. You can say that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So if we did a cup of cooked pasta, that sounds more appropriate. So 524 calories, 43 grams of carbs. That makes sense. Um, 16 grams of fat because of the Alfredo. That makes sense. And then 41 grams of protein with 100 grams of chicken. Again, that makes sense. Was that good to go through an exercise like that together?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I love to see it. All right, so let me go back to, oh gosh, I'm lost. Oh, okay. So I think that like practicing tracking your macros is going to make you so aware. And I want to continue practicing this. So I want to do something really fun because I don't want this to be theoretical. I really want you to see how you track your macros. So someone tell me what they had for breakfast this morning. I don't want you to edit or censor yourself. Like tell me what you actually ate. Was it French toast, a bagel, eggs, fast food? Please, I want you to tell me. Oh gosh, Megan, thank you for telling me how to spell fettuccine. I'm just now seeing that.
I could tell you 2 scrambled eggs, sauteed onions, and green peppers.
Okay, 2 scrambled eggs. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm going to, perfect. All right, so we're back on MyFitnessPal. So for breakfast, you said that you had 2 scrambled eggs.
Hmm.
Okay. Did you use any butter?
I use spray butter.
Spray butter. So that's the no calorie, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's no, honestly.
Or
It's
is it like
low.
the Pam spray?
No, it's I can't believe it's not butter spray.
Oh, I think that has no calories too. I think it's essentially that. Okay, so 2 eggs. Onions obvi is also sauteed in that. Can't believe it's not
Yes.
butter. Okay.
Hmm.
So you probably didn't have a whole chopped onion, probably not even a quarter chopped. So we'll say,
No, it's a couple slivers,
yeah. Either way, that's not a high calorie food. And then you said some peppers.
green peppers.
Okay. Is this all you had for breakfast?
There was a tablespoon of olive oil in there too. I did use that.
Okay.
Um, and a piece of bacon.
Okay. Olive oil. You said a tablespoon and a piece of bacon. One piece?
Yep.
Okay. So this is sharing that we have about 331 calories. Five of that is coming from carbs. 28 of that is coming from fats, and 15 is coming from proteins. What are your
Mm,
thoughts when you see those numbers?
I should have left the bacon out.
The bacon only accounts for four. You know what's the big culprit here is this olive oil.
Oh, really?
Do you see that? So right
Hmm.
here is the fats and the 14. So this olive oil is actually what's accounting for most of your
Wow.
fats. So that one slice of bacon, and I did a thick piece because I didn't want to do the thin piece, especially if it's from Dad's butcher shop. that's only got 4 grams of fat and 3 grams of protein. Still a higher fat food.
Interesting.
Yeah, but doesn't it like knowing this information allows you to say, oh, maybe I would skip on the olive oil next time and have another piece of bacon?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I want someone, maybe Bobby or Megan, to share with me what you had for lunch.
They had a Dicka's beef sandwich. We bought the Dicka's beef, and then we had Italian bread from Jewel.
Okay, Italian bread. So here's how I would track this. One, I would definitely throw it into ChatGPT, like I said earlier. But if we're going to do it on our own, you said Italian bread, is it like the hoagie?
Yes,
Okay, so I'd probably do 2 slices. Would you agree with me on that?
yes.
Okay, I agree with that. So we're going to add that to our diary. And then you said a beef sandwich. Okay, so that beef, what kind of beef is that? Do you
The
know,
name is it's actually Dicka's beef. That was actually the name on the thing.
Dickas? This,
Mm.
so eating out may be kind of hard when you're finding like precise, and this is why I said like I really like to use ChatGPT for this because that's when you can say to yourself like, "Hey, I got this from Dicka's here in Chicago. I know that it has beef, it's got gravy, and did you dip it or not dip it?"
Oh, I dipped it.
Of course. Okay, Dicka's is, how do you spell that? Dikas?
Ditka.
DKA. Let's see if it's here. Oh, look at that. Beef stick. Mike Ditka. Bang Bang
Yes.
Shrimp. Okay. Well, hey, look at this. In MyFitnessPal, this is actually already here. So if we were to do a beef stick, I don't know if you would consider it a stick, right? So how would you, restaurant style breakfast sausage?
Beef sandwich.
Yeah, let me just type in sandwich. Beef stick keeps coming up. So I think what I would do here is I would erase where and I would go with beef sandwich, 590 calories. Okay, we see 360 from Arby's, but that's shit quality. We see kind of an unverified one. You see that green check mark, it means verified. Dry for 230, beef sandwich 460, 370, 527. So this is kind of where it gets hard. Roast beef sandwich. I think this 460 is probably the one that I would choose in this situation. I'm going to take a look, add it to my diary, and see where it lands. I'm going to delete that Italian bread we got earlier. 460 with 31 grams of carbs, 25 grams of fat, 28 grams of protein. What do you think about that?
Looked up to see what the actual thing was, but I was kind of curious to see.
What did it say? Share.
Um, yeah, but I didn't look at the whole thing. So it said about 5 servings per container, serving size 0.75. So calories 166, total fat 6 grams, total carbs 3, and protein 17 grams.
How many
And
calories total?
166, but it says about 5 servings per container.
Hmm.
So kind of hard to measure. So yours is probably accurate.
So when I think about something like this, I know that I've mentioned this already, but ChatGPT is really helpful to just throw in and say, "Hey, I have a roast beef sandwich. It is dipped. It's, what are the estimated calories if I eat the entire thing?" And those are usually within 10% of what I would track on my own. So whichever way that you choose to track, this is where restaurant food becomes a little harder. Like this is where it gets a little tricky because you can't control the ingredients and why track doing it this at home and tracking your macros and having better control is going to be better, especially if you're in a calorie deficit. Like I will tell ChatGPT to overestimate my calories because that makes more sense. Especially if I'm in a calorie deficit, I'd rather overestimate than underestimate, right? We are getting pretty close to finishing. I am really grateful that we got to do some tracking together. Did we do dinner? Let's do one more. And that was a good one, Megan. I'm so glad that you shared that.
The turn. What'd you have, Sam?
Tonight I had 93 lean beef and I had 100 grams of it. Actually, that's not true. I had 75 grams of it. And then I kept it super simple. Ragu, traditional, I did half a cup, exactly. And then I did Barillo pasta. And yes, 190 calories sounds right. And yes, 382. So I had 50 grams of carbs. I have a lot of carbs to afford. Carbs are actually hard for me to reach and hit. Fats, I have a much easier time reaching my fats. So 8 grams of fats and then 27 grams of protein. So that is what's helping me hit my carbs. But if you look down here, these are my goals for today. So I've had a total of 1,300 calories and I am able to have 1,700. I am falling short on carbs by about 90. I am over my, or excuse me, 80. I'm over my fat goal by 16, and my protein has fallen short. I'm still 66 grams. So if I had a day like today, I would probably alter a lot of these items for higher protein options. One thing that I can do for sure is throw in a protein shake. This is my favorite, and this is a quick, easy 30 grams of protein. Fairlife, it's one bottle. It's again 150 calories, 30 grams of protein, and now my numbers already start to look better. I would definitely have not used that olive oil in breakfast. I actually have given up butter. Butter is my favorite to eat my egg whites with, but I have to give up butter because it affords me like 9 grams of fats and it's just not that worth it to me. So you see by how making those two changes, I got rid of the olive oil and I added a protein shake, how much better my macros look. Don't look at the sodium.
Mm.
I don't know why the sodium is there, but already. So now instead of being 66 away from hitting my protein goal for the day, I'm at 36. And what I can do now, I don't have any more fats that I can afford, right? I'm way over on my fats, but I do need significantly more carbs. So maybe another something that I would do is add, let's say, turkey sandwich where I do, let's say, about 5 slices of turkey. I'm going to add I can't do cheese with fats. Maybe I can do a tortilla, even though that has a little bit of fats too, but a lot more carbs. Let's see where we end up. So we're getting closer, and this is like when you balance your macros each day. So I'm going to show you today because this is what my balance macros look like. At the end of the day, I have 49 I have 49 calories remaining. I'm 3 grams over on my carbs. I have 2 fat grams left, which makes sense why I have things here. And I had 148 out of 145 grams of protein. Do you guys see that pretty good?
Yeah.
So glad. I really wanted to run through this with you so that you guys had a really comprehensive understanding of what it means to track your macros. So with that, we tracked it live in real time and we didn't do any healthy versions or ideal versions. I feel like we tracked a real version of what we ate today. And this awareness, it's built on honesty. And I want to thank you guys for being honest with me today on what you ate. So I'm so glad that we were able to log our lunch. We logged our dinner. We got to see what it looks like and where our protein is landing, where our carbs are landing, and where our fats are landing. And then you get to see how you would make the adjustments throughout the day. So the goal again is not to be perfect. I showed you that mine's a little imperfect today. It's very intentional though. And this is what tracking in real time looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not restrictive. It's not obsessive. It's simply gathering data. And now you say, given what I've eaten so far today, how do I close the gap? And that's when I get to adjust. Maybe I had an extra treat at work and now I have to adjust the amount of cheese that I have with my pizza for dinner. But instead of saying, like, oh my God, I already messed up, we say, great, lunch gets to carry more protein. And maybe dinner is usually high fat, so we plan for that and adjust earlier on the day. And this is how you build the skill of macros. And this is how you stop guessing. When you see MyFitnessPal in action and when you see how quickly we can log a meal and it clearly breaks down your macros, it stops to feel scary and starts feeling empowering. Because instead of wondering why you're not seeing progress, you get to see what your actual intake is. And once you see it, you can then change it. Tonight, you're not just learning about macros, we have been practicing them. So, to summarize, the biggest mistake that women make when we're trying to eat healthy is doing it without structure. When there's no structure, most people swing between undereating, overeating, being inconsistent, and thinking that they lack willpower. We've learned that without data, everything might feel emotional. And macros remove that guesswork to help you understand what actually is happening instead of relying on vibes alone. So, when we use macros as data, and we mentioned as a nurse, we use something called AdPie. And there is a reason that the first step is to assess. Assessment requires honesty and self-awareness. Macros work the same way. They help you assess what you're eating, plan your meals intentionally, implement structure, and evaluate how your body responds. When women start tracking macros, awareness creates power. And this tracking, it's information. So every transformation begins the same way. You look at yourself honestly, without shame, without blame, with clarity, and you assess. Macros are not here to change who you are. They're here to show you who you are right now. And once you see that clearly, you get to decide what to keep and what to change. That is your power. So today you learned what macros are, how calorie math works, why quality matters, how to weigh your food, how to log it, how to estimate at restaurants, and how to remove the shame. Inside my 6 week, what the F are macros program, we're going to find what your personal macros should be. We're going to track side by side and evaluate your data each week. We're going to adjust strategically, work on your mindset, and most importantly, stay consistent. You can do this alone, or you can do it with daily accountability and coaching. I'm giving away one scholarship this week to someone who reposts on Instagram or Facebook what they learned or how much they enjoyed this masterclass. You can even use the photo I sent to you in your email because this isn't about discipline, it's clarity. And you don't need more willpower, you need awareness. When women understand their intake, they stop guessing, stop fearing carbs, stop fearing fat, stop fearing food, and start choosing intentionally. And that is freedom. That is the end of our masterclass today. I am so grateful that you guys have been here with me. I would love to hear your feedback and what you thought, not maybe at this moment, but I cannot wait to see you guys soon.
That
Yay! Any
that sounds good.
questions, comments, concerns?
Well, I haven't been a real fan of tracking, but I think I'm gonna.
I love that. I hope that today made it a little more understandable and digestible because macros can be complicated. Like when we were
Well, I think
tracking,
it gave me the reason why. Like,
mm,
before it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like senseless information. Like, okay, great, whatever, you know?
hmm
But yeah, I could see where it can make a difference in your choices for the day. or the week or
Yes.
whatever,
Yes. When I use that macros budget analogy, and like when you think about it in the form of like how much you're able to spend every day, when you keep overspending, there's consequences for that in the real life. And that's the true with macros. And then as my coach kept taking me through the different phases, and I am now in my second deficit, it is crazy to understand the macros and how you can adjust it to literally manipulate your metabolism. Like
hmm
I thought I had it all figured out after I like stopped binge eating and started losing weight and I lost the 50 pounds. I was like, "Oh my God, I got it all figured out." And wow, in the last year, I learned so much more about my body and about food and fueling my body than I ever have in my entire life. So I really hope that macros show to be very eye-opening for you. And I would love to have you as like a client, someone where we every day we're going back and forth about filling in those gaps, getting more protein,
hmm
eating more carbs, and just how amazing and incredible we can feel in our body when we are fueling our body with food. Your breakfast I know is notorious for being, no to low carbs. And that's what we saw today is a very low carb breakfast, which is not a bad thing, but we do have to get our fuel from somewhere. So where do we get that? Right? And if
hmm
we assess, and I'm not saying you specifically, but if we assess where our energy levels are at, do we have energy at the end of the day? There's so much that we can learn when we're simply tracking our current habits. So I hope that you feel so freaking empowered moving forward.
Sounds good, Sammy.
Okay, thank you, ladies, for being here. I just love you, ladies, so freaking much. And I will see you inside the school community.
You got it. Good night.
Bye.